This is the Run and Tell podcast.
So we were homeless for a minute. My wife was pregnant at the time also. And I think we were in a tent for about 3 months. And then we moved into my father-in-law's garage. He converted that to a room for us. And I mean, it was freezing in there, but it was at least it was something.
Did he know that you guys were homeless that whole time?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He knew we were in our addiction. He had just been clean about 4 or 5 years. Oh. And that's one thing that I remember is my wife saying, if my dad can do it, I can do it. Right. Mm-hmm. And so going back to that whole fatherhood piece that it always sticks out to me. Yeah. And for me, going back to the story, I mean, we were homeless we were in a tent for 3 months, and then we lived in the garage for about 3 months. And then my father-in-law was a handyman, so he was fixing up this house, and he asked the owner, he said, look, your house keeps getting vandalized. Let my daughter and her husband move in. They'll take care of the house. In the meantime, they'll get on their feet. So he helped us out huge with that. We stayed there for another 3 months, and a week before my daughter was born, we were able to save enough money to get ourselves an apartment. And that was with my middle daughter. And that whole time we were still in our addiction though. I mean, I thought I was doing it because I went to work. I was working, coming home, doing the family thing, at least I thought. Mm-hmm. And then my wife was pregnant with my third daughter, and we're again still in our addiction, and everything just hit the fan. Everything that I worked hard for to getting us our apartment, doing the family thing. We ended up losing our kids because we were on drugs and things. And so CPS got involved. Our kids were removed.
How many kids did you guys have at that?
At that time, we had 3.
You had 3.
Yeah, so my oldest was with her grandma. And then my middle daughter, they ended up leaving her with my sister-in-law. And then my youngest was in foster care. So the day that actually happened when my kids were removed, my wife said, maybe we need to go to church. And for me, that was like, if she'd asked me a while ago, I'd probably laugh at her face like, yeah, right. But because I grew up resenting just people, resenting, this whole God thing. I grew up Catholic. I didn't know what that meant. But that day when she said, maybe we need to go to church, I was like, you know what, let's go. You know what I mean? Because I had that desperation moment. We didn't know where else to turn to. And, we ended up going. And I think for me, I didn't know what I was walking into. But the deacon, spoke to us, and they knew my wife because she would take them to that church. Well, not them, but she would take my brother and sister-in-laws to that church when they were going through their process of, the parents in their addiction and stuff. And my wife had to step in as the older sibling. And so they knew her. And so they kind of just took us in and just broke it down and, try to encourage us. But at the same time, I had questions like, what am I walking into? Like, I'm supposedly grew up Catholic. I didn't know what that meant, let alone being Christian and anything else. And so the deacon took his time and he kind of broke it down to me, and I'm like, all right, I think I am ready to accept, man. Like at this point, God's the only one that can help me. Mm-hmm. And in the past though, I grew up resenting God, cussing God out on my late nights, being awake and just being mad at the world and the cards that were played to me. I didn't feel like it was fair. Dad wasn't around. Mom was addicted, and stuck in her addiction. And I had to take my mom's, welfare money to make sure our bills were paid at 12 years old. Like, no child should have to go through that, right? Make sure that there was food in the fridge, being the grown-up in the house. My brother was there, but he ended up moving out at some point with his family. And so it was just me and my mom's, and it was just pretty hard, trying to make money on the side with my hustle, but at the same time making sure my house was in order. But what does that even look like to a 12-year-old, Yeah. So I think for me, though, at that point, I was ready because I wanted my kids back. I wanted to lean on something that I've never had. And it was explained to me that was God. So I said, okay, let's do it. And I think at that point, when I did say the Lord's Prayer and accepted Jesus into my heart as my Lord and Savior, I just had this rush and this vision of me reunifying with my kids, being there, together, everybody smiling in our house. And it was very clear, and it felt real. It felt like it is going to happen no matter what. So in those hard times and those hard moments that I had in the process of reunifying with my kids, I would lean back on that vision and hold on to God and just, ask him to carry me through it.
This is the Run and I can't do it.
Yes, you can.